Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday night. Hope everybody is doing great. Hope you're ready to get into some Titans training camp talk, along with a little bit of vaccine sprinkled over everything because it's inescapable at this point. But tonight we are going to talk about why the Tennessee Titans are the perfect case study in the NFL for the way to handle vaccinations properly. We will spend some time on that because Ryan Tannehill spoke on the matter earlier today. As Donovan Romaine points out, he found Ryan Tannehill's comments on the matter disheartening and difficult to like the NFL, even though football is the best sport in the world. So, a lot of people are going to have opinions about this. We'll get into it at length. We're also going to do a lot from like training camp observations. So I promise you it's not just all vaccine talk tonight. But we will do that with Tannehill. We will talk about what I was able to observe doing the radio show out at training camp today. And then we will talk about what the hell happened to Aaron Rodgers today at the end of the show. Cause I think I would have done a full show on it if it wasn't the first day of Titans camp, but that was unbelievable what happened at the podium earlier this afternoon. Before we get into all of these things, I need you guys to share this show. Not depending on, but on whichever platform that you're hanging out with us on. If you could be so kind as to retweet the show, if you're hanging out with us on Twitter, it's in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You just simply click the retweet button and your Twitter people can get involved that way. If you're hanging out with us on Facebook Live, it's share now to public. That's how you get the people going in the Facebook chat. Share now to public. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you are on YouTube or on Twitch, please do us a solid and subscribe to the A to Z Sports channel where you can get live stream content multiple times a day, at least 6 days a week. Austin Stanley and Luke Worsham did a pop-up from training camp today. The A to Z Sports Pick Show. Austin and Zach in the morning, me at night. We got you covered at least 6 days a week earlier or over the course of your football season coverage. And now that more of you are here, well, before I say that, before I start the show, let me do this first. Because Keelan says they snubbed Henry on Madden. Keelan, I could not possibly give less of a shit what Derrick Henry's Madden rating is. But, if you guys want to get bent out of shape about it, I'm sure somebody will do a show on it over the course of this week, but it's not going to be me. So, let's talk about actual football. I don't care what Derrick Henry's Madden rating is. That being said, let's begin the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. Their Madden rating is sky high at Two Rivers Ford. It has been sky high since 1983. In fact, an 83 plus is what Two Rivers Ford would be rated on the Madden video game. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. I really can't believe we started off the show with people complaining about Madden comments. Come on, people. There was training camp today. Stop it. Video game. DraftKings Sportsbook. In the DraftKings Sportsbook app, promo code A to Z Sports gets you in on all the action. All you have to do is plug in the code, and you will start making money today with all of their fantastic promotions. Brymak Mechanical, satisfaction guaranteed on all of your HVAC needs. Commercial, residential, Brymak's got you covered. BRYMAK, Brymak.com. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage is where you go for your dream address without the stress. Trust the Ashton team, the official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans at GaryAshton.com. Okay, so now that I've already become pissed off about the Madden ratings, damn it. Why do you guys do this to me? Why? There's actual stuff to talk about in the football world today, and you want to start off with Derrick Henry's Madden rating. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Anyway, so the Titans had their first training camp practice today. And there was a great many observations that I will share with you from that training camp practice. But most importantly, the thing that we start with today is Ryan Tannehill, who spoke at the podium earlier this afternoon, The first time he has spoken to us of this official season. And among the conversations that were had with Ryan Tannehill was the fact that he was wearing a mask during stretch. Now, what that means, it was he and Christian Fulton that were wearing masks today. And what we were informed of this morning when we got to the facility was that there have been some updates to the protocol. John Robinson himself, in fact, updated us on the protocol and was really steadfast in the idea that the Titans were going to be on the forefront for their community on vaccinations. The Titans have eclipsed 90% vaccinations, but that does mean it also accounts for partial vaccinations, not fully vaccinated players as well. So then we were told, well, depending on where the player is in the vaccination process or if they are not vaccinated, they will be required by the NFL to wear masks during the stretching period. And lo and behold, we walk out there and Ryan Tannehill's got a mask on. Now, we talked to Ryan Tannehill about this. And what he told us was that he had been vaccinated, but he shared some opinions that I'm fascinated to get your guys' opinion on regarding the NFL and the vaccine. So the question is, your Two Rivers Ford take, do you agree or disagree with Ryan Tannehill's statement on vaccines earlier today? If you didn't hear it, we'll play it for you momentarily. Your Two Rivers Ford take, first and foremost, in the comment section on the A to Z Sports Primetime Show, Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Your Two Rivers Ford take. Do you agree or disagree with Ryan Tannehill's statement on vaccines? While you guys do that, I will tell you about the people who present the Two Rivers Ford take. That, of course, is Two Rivers Ford. What is new at Two Rivers Ford? All manner of incredible new American-made Ford vehicles. The F-150, fresh off the line. The electric Mach-E Mustang. The 2021 Ford Bronco, available to you as well. These are just some of the fantastic new offerings that Two Rivers Ford has for you. All you got to do is whip out to Mount Juliet. It's a quick 7-mile drive from Nashville International Airport. You go pay them a visit. You'll love their non-commissioned sales staff. They will make you feel right at home and put no pressure on you throughout the course of the car buying experience. They're looking to find you the best car for your budget and for your family's needs. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet for your new or pre-owned vehicles, or online at tworiversford.com. All right, do you agree or disagree with Ryan Tannehill's vaccination statements today? Christopher Emmerich says his body, his choice. That is true. Although I do, and this is not about you specifically, Christopher, but I do find it hilarious how many more people that would never have been, my body, my choice, are now, because of the vaccine, my body, my choice, or at least screaming that from the Twitterverse into the ether, because a lot of these people would not have said the same thing regarding, women and their position on their body, their choice. But I'm not saying that about you specifically, Christopher. I'm just saying that's an observation that I've made throughout the course of this vaccination conversation, which gets exceedingly dumber by the day. But I do think what Ryan Tannehill said today was important, and I'll explain to you why if you haven't heard it. We'll play that for you momentarily. Evan C. White says, I hate that this is going to trigger people. Who cares if someone else wears a mask? Sawyer Kimbrough says, I think that's some military shit, making everyone get vaccinated. Well, again, Sawyer, they're not making everybody get vaccinated, but they are making their lives a hell of a lot harder if they don't get vaccinated. Captain Trips says he agrees. Let's see. Rooney Glover says that he agrees. Chris Frazier agrees. Aaron Goff agrees with Ryan Tannehill. Brad Lipford says he's good with it. So Jeff Charles says agree. It was a not so subtle flex by the league. Well, and again, this is the league's right to flex, right? This is the league's privately owned business. This is the league's prerogative that if they would like to make their workforce as vaccinated as humanly possible, then they are entitled to take punitive measures if said workforce does not choose to get vaccinated and affects the NFL's bottom line. So no, it's the least subtle of the flexes, but it's the most predictable thing that the NFL was going to do, because it's not a moral stance. It's not a political stance. It's not even something that I really think is about, at the core of it, the health and human safety element of it for the players and for the people who make the NFL go. It's about the money. And the NFL just so happens to align with science in regards to making sure that they make their cash. So do you agree or disagree with Ryan Tannehill's statement on vaccines today? So just to give you guys the context, he was at the podium after practice, and then we'll get into more, actual football training camp conversations. But this is probably the biggest headline to come out of it today, to be honest with you. This was Ryan Tannehill on why he waited so long to get the vaccine and how he's saying the NFL basically, forced his hand on this.
Oh, no doubt. I wouldn't have gotten the vaccine if without the protocols that they're enforcing on us. I think it's a personal decision for everyone. Everyone has to make the best decision for them and their families. That's kind of our mindset in this building. But they're trying to force your hand, and they ultimately have forced a lot of hands by the protocols, which is, everyone has their own opinions on. So it is what it is. I love this game. I love this team. I want to be able to compete and do the things that, I think are important to build chemistry and win football games. So ultimately that forced my hand and to get in the vaccine. Yeah, there were a ton of conversations. The team brought people in to talk to us, doctors to talk to us. There was a lot of conversations in the spring. I think our numbers were obviously lower in the spring with who was vaccinated. Had a ton of conversations in the spring, strong opinions about it as there are everywhere. And ultimately, I think, like you said, we almost 90% or close to 90% of the guys are either vaccinated or in process. So you kind of see what the trend is. And like I said, our hand was kind of forced if you didn't want to, abide by all the hefty protocols. Not really. No. Like I said, I wouldn't have gotten the vaccine if not for really intensive protocols and, not being able to gather with teammates and, separate locker room, separate meeting room, separate cafeteria, all those type of things where you're losing, the team chemistry, the team bond, which I think is so important. I think that probably had a lot to do with guys ultimately getting vaccinated.
That was Ryan Tannehill at the podium earlier today. Now, he is in the process of being vaccinated. He just hasn't necessarily cleared the NFL's protocol timeline to be able to not wear a mask during stretch. Do you agree or disagree with his position? Because I thought, and I'll do this first, and then I'll tell you how I feel about this. Because you guys know my position on vaccinations. You know that I got vaccinated. You know that I am very strongly of the belief that you are entitled to make, of course, your own decisions. Me personally, I am not responsible for making sure that vaccines get to people. Me personally, I'm not in the business of saving lives. I'm a sports talk. I'm an NFL reporter and a sports talk show host. Like, that's not somebody who you're interested in getting vaccine opinions from. And I've been transparent in that. Like, I straight up, in fact, I got in a little bit of trouble yesterday because I said, frankly, I'm not the one trying to save lives, but I care about my personal well-being. So for my personal well-being, it was the right decision for me. But what Tannehill said, I heard it, and it really struck me in a profound way, and one that I'll expand on here in just a second. We'll read more of your comments as well right after I tell you about our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Speaking of America, our top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for my listeners. I love using DraftKings Sportsbook because it's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limitless ways to get in on all the action. My friends and family have been loving DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you will too. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code A2Z Sports when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code A2Z Sports to turn $1 into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Tennessee only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text the Tennessee Red Line 1-800-889-9789. Do you agree or disagree with what Ryan Tannehill had to say there? So for me, Salty Trash Truck says, sold your soul to the devil. Well, hell, I mean, we knew that before I chose to get vaccinated. Like I am not, I have been what little remains of my soul, I'm willing to sell to the highest bidder. I have no reservations about that with salty trash truck on YouTube. So that's no insult to me. I'm for sale, baby. Clearly, given that my entire office looks like a NASCAR with all the branding all over it. Anyway, Evan C. White. So do you agree or disagree? Scott Trevathan points out nobody is forced. And what Ryan Tannehill, he implied that his hand was forced, but of course, legally, the NFL has not forced these guys to receive vaccinations. So what I came away with this thinking is, well, Ryan Tannehill did all of the things that we have asked athletes or public figures or, people of influence who have the ability to spread the message of why they chose to be vaccinated. For example, John Robinson pulled us all aside today before practice even got started and said, we want to be a leader in our community to encourage people to get the vaccine. This is the Titans general manager. And then telling us of the fact that they, as a team, are over 90% vaccinated at this point, and they expect that number to continue to grow. So when you have that, but when you have a quarterback expressing the opinions that he is, well, as far as I can tell, Ryan Tannehill did all of the things that we ask these guys to do. He received the education or received the information from the medical professionals that the team brought in. He had his opinion about not being interested in the vaccine outside of what the NFL was doing, what the NFL was doing with the protocols inside their buildings if they did not get vaccinated. And he said, you know what? As a team leader, I am myself not a fan of this on principle. But as a team leader, I am going to show my leadership and not have it affect team chemistry and not have it be a problem in the locker room and not further isolate myself from teammates after going through an entire year where they were as isolated in the same building as humanly possible and around each other as humanly possible. I'm going to do this because this is what's best for the team that I play for and the people around me. What I'm being asked, not necessarily something that I buy into. And everyone is entitled to that opinion. But ultimately, he made the unselfish choice to go forward with the vaccine and make sure that he was in a position, in as best a position as humanly possible, to further his influence on his teammates, because he speaks for many people. He speaks for many NFL athletes. He speaks for many of you. I'm certain. We've talked about this a lot over the course of the last 18 months, whether it was pre-vaccine or once the vaccines came out and why people were skeptical and all of these things. I think Ryan Tannehill very eloquently made the point. Well, he didn't say why personally he did not choose to take the vaccine. He was not in on the vaccine prior to taking it. He did not go through specifics in that way, but I do think that the points that he made were valid ones. And yeah, he can not be crazy about the way that the NFL has forced a lot of these guys' hands, but he made the right decision. He made the unselfish decision. And that, I think, shows a tremendous amount of leadership on the part of Ryan Tannehill. I understand that people are concerned and that people are skeptical of the vaccination, and until such time as it is FDA approved and all of these things, that we continue to cite for people who want to argue about this thing. I'm not here to argue about it. I'm just saying what I observed from Ryan Tannehill, I respected a tremendous amount today, because he did have a differing opinion on the matter and still chose to move forward with it because it was in the best interest of not just him, but in everybody around him. And that, I think, is something that you really admire in your quarterback. Jay Finn says, "Well said, Buck." Well, I appreciate that. We try to have these conversations, in as nuanced a way as humanly possible. I think we always want to make sure that you guys have your opinions expressed, and that we take, sometimes I'll pop off on one of you guys, but I try to make sure, especially with stuff like this, there is only one way that I want to have this conversation, and that is hearing from everybody and parsing the details, because it's not right or wrong. There are more things. It's not a difference between right or wrong, good or evil, or anything like that. But there are legitimate consequences for those who choose not to. And this will continue to be the case across workplaces or in workplaces across this country. And I'm certain across the world as COVID and variants start to kind of settle in and we have to basically adapt our society around it. Kim Taylor says she agrees. He told the truth. People don't like the truth. His hand was forced. If he doesn't get the shots and he gets sick, then he doesn't get paid. It's true, Kim. And again, I am respectful of people who do take the time to get themselves educated and still choose to not do it or have their reservations about it. Tannehill got it, right? Tannehill wasn't interested in it, but got it anyway. And that, I think, the summary of this is that it showed true leadership on his part. All right, let's get vaccination talk the hell out of here. I want to talk about actual football because I watched actual football practice today, and it was fantastic. Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, what were you most excited to see at training camp today? And producer Reed, when you tweet out the question, make sure you don't do it with a question mark, because we're not asking a question of people. We're just about to give people one thing that I learned at training camp today. So minus the question mark, Reed, when you tweet it out there for the masses. But what I would say is, what were you most excited to learn from day one of training camp? I'll share with you some observations that I had right after I tell you about our friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Or excuse me, about Brymak Mechanical. We'll tell you about Gary later on in the show. In the meantime, Brymak Mechanical is the best in the business. Satisfaction guaranteed, in fact, on all of your HVAC needs. They will put you in a position to succeed. They will put you in your comfort zone as the weather continues to get hotter. And it sure as hell isn't cooling off this week. If you want to make sure that you can get your commercial business or your home properly heated, or at this time of year cooled, Brymak Mechanical is the place that you go. BRYMAK, Brymak.com. What were you most excited to learn or to see videos of, given that you guys aren't able to go out there to practice with us? But what were you most excited to learn about this Titans team earlier today? Josh says that Stillman mentioned how good Racey McMath looked. Thoughts? Racey McMath, and Johnny Jameson also asks about this on YouTube. Racey McMath, it's crazy, right? Because Julio Jones is out there and AJ Brown is out there. And Julio was limited today. And here's what I'll say about Julio before we get to Racey. This has been my biggest question about Julio, and we'll continue to see how it bears out over the next couple of weeks and months as we get closer to the season. The thing with Julio is, famously, he doesn't practice the last 2 years. Like, he does what he needs to do to get his body to Sundays, but on a week-by-week basis or a day-by-day basis, Julio Jones doesn't typically practice. Now, this is the first time that he's on a new team in a decade, since entering the league a decade ago. So you would think that he would do more than he might otherwise do had he stayed in Atlanta and been familiar with, the people around him and even though it's a new coaching staff, on and on. But this is a totally different environment for Julio. And today he was limited. So that's something that I'm going to continue to keep a close eye on, how much Julio actually does, because I remember, a lot of people were asking or saying that what a great opportunity for these young secondary players to go up against Julio Jones and AJ Brown in practices. And what my rebuttal continued to be is, well, yeah, that's fine in a perfect world, but Julio Jones really doesn't practice like that. So I don't know how many opportunities. There will be opportunities, of course, but I don't know how many opportunities like that these young defensive backs are going to have. Although AJ was taking not a young defensive back to school today. He was put some moves on Jackrabbit Jenkins. Anyway, to Racey McMath. So he's going to make the roster as a core special teamer. They have a major role that they are targeting him for on special teams. He's a gunner. He's big. He's physical. He is fast as all hell. But what I watched today made me so curious about how they are able to refine his skill set as a wide receiver. So I was watching him in the back of the end zone because I did my radio show out at training camp today, and I'll be out there for the rest of the week broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park. We had John Robinson on the radio show today. You can go check out that in podcast form. If you missed any of it, it's the Buck Rising Show. Rashaan Evans will be on tomorrow. We'll have all manner of great Titans guests live at training camp. Mike Keith, the voice of the Titans, will sit down with us at the broadcast station. But while watching Racing McMath, so I'm not sure. I need to pull out my training camp roster because I don't know who 32 on defense is quite yet. But they're running red zone routes in the back corner of the end zone, right? It's they're basically running, and I'm looking at the route concept right now. I'm watching it. It's basically an end zone fade route that they're throwing Racing McMath. Now, Racing McMath is a big dude. He's physically tall. He's physically built. And what he does is he goes up and high points this football, brings it down, has a bit of a, he landed on the turf, I think, a little harder than you would like to see any of these guys at this point because you want to make sure that they maintain their health. But flashes of somebody who is immensely talented. And this was kind of the curiosity about him at LSU. He played behind a lot of great wide receivers that ended up being high draft picks in the NFL. The opportunity was never there. He had injuries that kind of derailed his career so that the statistics were not there for him in college. So he comes into the league as a 7th round draft pick and having all of the physical gifts in the world, but not necessarily the body of work to say, okay, this is somebody who can legitimately factor into our wide receiving core. But honestly, I watch Racing McMath and I'm thinking, well, why do they need another tight end when they have this giant of a human being who's able to high point footballs? And he's working against a scrub defensive back. I need to find out. I'm going to pull up the Titans roster right now to remind myself who number 32 is. This is the toughest time of year for me because I'm having to learn all manner of names of guys who I don't know yet. I'm going to pull up the numbers here right now. 32 on defense is, of course, 32. There is no 32 listed. He's just wearing a 32. Whomever that is was wearing a 32 jersey, but officially on the Titans roster, there is no 32 listed. So I have no idea who that human being was that was playing defense on Racing McMath in the red zone drills today. But and as Josh Medina points out, his Senior Bowl was rough. Like there are a lot of there. It's not Borders. Borders is 39. It may be. I don't know who it is. Okay, so I'm not going to speak from a place of ignorance, and maybe they'll update the website tomorrow. No, Darrington Evans is offense number 32. This was a defensive back playing 32. Karen. So it's just some dude that's a floater at this point. D. Evans is 32 on offense. Yeah, but we're talking about defensive backs, guys. Quentin Meeks, maybe Brian. I don't know. I have no idea who this person was. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about Racing McMath. Racing McMath, I think, has great potential. But potential is basically what got drafted him into the league. What we will see is how much the Titans, as a staff, are able to develop him and find different ways to get him involved. Because I do think that there are some things there that really stand out to me. Elsewhere at training camp, the things that I learned, Taylor Lewan back in full force. He did so. So Will Compton was on the radio show today too. And I tweeted out that Taylor Lewan left practice for a little bit, but did return. Now, what I did not add, the context of this, in my tweet, because Will Compton ripped me for it online today, I did not say that he left with a trainer specifically. And I did not mention in my tweet that when he returned, he didn't do anything, hardly at all, after returning to practice today. So with that context, that probably would have been more important rather than Will telling me that I tweet the dumbest shit about training camp. Because for all they know, he could have been going to take a pee really quick and left camp to do that. And we all saw him walking off when in fact I saw him with a trainer, something I should have mentioned in my tweet. But regardless, so I did see that from Lewan. AJ Brown looked great. First time I've seen AJ Brown on the practice field in the better part of 6 months almost. He looked fantastic. He was given Jackrabbit Jenkins the business today a little bit in the one-on-one drills in the back of the end zone. Julio, again, limited in capacity, not a lot of work there for him. Did not go through he did do some individual drill work, but outside of that, like he wasn't doing the one-on-ones against the Titans defensive backs. He just did the individual wide receiver group drills. Fulton improved starter reps, says Johnny Jameson. Well, I mean, I think here's what I'll say. It's not enough of a sample size for me to be able to give you that answer, Johnny. But what I will add to that is Mike Vrabel was very complimentary of him yesterday because of how much progress the Titans head coach thinks that Fulton and T.R. Tart and Anthony Ferguson, three guys that he singled out, how much they benefited from all of the work that they got in the offseason. So I don't know the answer to that yet, Johnny. I don't know how much better he is from what limited stuff we have seen of him, because remember, he didn't do much. He really didn't do anything on the field during mandatory minicamp, and we're still not clear what happened to him in that regard. But Van Jeffrey saying of Racing McMath, can he play tight end, Buck? I mean, he can do some of the things that tight ends can do. I don't know if he can block, but he's big as hell. So they could probably do some creative stuff with him. Jonathan Donahue says, boo, sheep. Well, sheep, bah, not boo, Jonathan. So, at least get your sound effects right. Jimmy Flem 50 says, Tart have a chance to have a breakout? Well, so what do you determine as a breakout, Jimmy? I think that here's what I'll say. Tart has a chance to start. Okay? T.R. Tart has the ability to claim a starting role that was left vacated by a guy who left in free agency. Daquan Jones is a big piece of this defense the last, basically 8-9 years that Daquan was around. He was a force in the middle of that defense, got progressively better, was so stout against the run, not an interior pressure guy, but T.R. Tart has a golden opportunity to be able to fill into that role. Luke Corbett says, T.R. start? Yes, T.R. start. I think Teron Davenport, our buddy from ESPN today, was calling him Pop-Tart, which made me laugh because it's a perfect nickname for a defensive lineman. I hope people call him Pop-Tart. So I don't know what does a breakout for a nose tackle look like, right, Jimmy? All I'm saying is I think that he does have the ability to start, which for an undrafted rookie free agent would be a bit of a breakout. So if we're grading on that scale, I think that's probably the way that you should look at things. Breakout would be like 6+ sacks, I think, says Carlos Reynoso, and nose tackles don't do that, right? Daquan Jones was here for 6 years, says Jay Finn. No, I think he was here for longer than 6 years, wasn't he? Daquan Jones was here longer for 6 years. Producer Reed, maybe look that up and text me. How long was Daquan Jones' career in Tennessee? While producer Reed does that, I'm getting some questions about the kicking. I'll be honest, I wasn't able to watch the kicking today. I tried to get as much in as humanly possible because the way that this is inside baseball. I don't know how many people care about this, but I'm doing the radio show from training camp, right? Because I'm on from 10 to 1 and practice happens in the middle of all these things. So the radio show starts at 1, but practice doesn't start until 9:30. So I'm getting through, as much as humanly possible, a half hour before the show. I'm during the commercial breaks, like sprinting around the fields to try and see what I can see in the 5 minutes that I have during commercial breaks so that I can bring back observations and, not miss my time to be back on air. And then, I'm trying to make sure that I'm buttoned up on my interview with John Robinson today, that I'm working with all of the people that are there to make sure that the show works correctly. And I'm stuck in one spot. It was ironic because they put me directly in front of the third field. And what I will say to you, well, no, here's what I'll say. The third field was fascinating today. And I cannot tell you any of the reasons why, because that is a violation of the reporting rules that are set in place for Titans media. So I wish that I could, but it was, I can't say any more than I've already said. I've probably said too much already. Mike Vrabel is going to come through the internet and strike me down because I've even said the words third field. But that's where they put my radio tent, because I had a tent, a fan, a cooler by me to make sure that I didn't die out in the heat. But it was right in front of the third field, which I thought was so ironic because there was things happening on the third field today, but nothing that I can talk about, which is unfortunate. It's so hard to keep a secret. Says Karen O'Keefe. Do you have arguments with other media? Says Jay Finn. No, I don't. I mean, every once in a while, me and Paul will get back and forth on Twitter or something like that. But Chief is one of my best friends in media. I don't really. I mean, people think that I'm an easy target because I am polarizing. I would say I think that I am among. It is easy to hate me if you would like to hate me among the people in Titans media. So, but any jokes that we're making, between me and my media friends, they're always jokes at their core, and people get bent out of shape because they see it on Twitter and they think that we're like fighting or something like that. When, I mean, the best part of Titans media availability is doing them together and being in a group text with Tehran and Rex Road and Paul, because we're all talking shit about the press conferences in our media corps while we're all sitting in a row next to each other asking my Vrabel vaccination questions and shit like that. So no, I don't get any like real arguments with media members. We get along with everybody. You told me the Zoom chats were excellent. It's true, Jay Fenn. 100%. All right, let's move on. Well, Brian Badillo says this: if Caleb Farley isn't on the field ready, healthy, and starting week 1, our defense will suffer every week after that. Could potentially be worse the 24th overall. Well, he's 22nd overall, Brian, so you're already wrong. And 2, Brian, it's the first day of training camp. You don't play a game until September 12th. We have no idea what the timeline for Caleb Farley is. All he has to do is pass a physical, and then he can start practicing and going through walkthroughs with the team. Why are you freaking out about Caleb Farley on day 1, on July 28th, when you don't play a game until September the 12th? Defense overall was 24th. No, Brian, it wasn't even that. It was 29th. They were 29th in sacks. They were 29th in DVOA. And I don't know if you're talking about like total defense, but like who gives a shit about total defense, right? Yardage is not something that concerns me. What concerns me is points per game that was scored against them. What concerns me is third down percentage. What concerns me is not just sacks, but quarterback pressures. And what concerns me is turnover differential. So if we're talking about those kind of stats, yeah, okay, I'm willing. And listen, I'm not saying that the Titans defense was better than 24th overall. They were awful. They were awful last year. Nobody's disputing this. But like, why are you working yourself up on July 28th about something that doesn't happen for almost 2 months at this point? Namaste. Take a breath. You're going to be all right. Let's move on, and let's wrap up with some Aaron Rodgers talk, because I got to hit on this today. And we'll have more the radio show again live tomorrow from Titans training camp. As I mentioned, Mike Keith will be on with us, the voice of the Titans, at 10:20. Rashawn Evans at 11:15. Live from training camp. It'd be great to physically see Rashawn face to face. It's been so long since we've seen these guys face to face. And then I think we'll have a few more guests out there, and a lot more great guests coming over the course of the next couple of weeks, because we'll be doing the radio show a lot at training camp. So make sure that you're tuned in from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. But we will get back to that tomorrow. In the meantime, we got to talk about what the hell happened with Aaron Rodgers today. The question that I want to ask you here on A to Z Sports Primetime from the DraftKings Sportsbook Studios is, what is the most unbelievable part of the Aaron Rodgers situation? Because I don't know how many people saw his press conference today, but oh my God. Oh my God. It was laugh out loud funny the way that he handled it. What's the most unbelievable part of the Aaron Rodgers situation? Let me know in the comment section on Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We'll talk about it together. You'll hear from number 12 for the Green Bay Packers, for the time being, momentarily, right after I tell you about the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. The best in the business. The official real estate agent of the Tennessee Titans is Gary Ashton. Gary Ashton will help you win the buyer battle with the best intel in Middle Tennessee real estate. The Ashton team is not like all of these other people competing with the same information for the same properties and not going the extra mile for the people that they're working for. The Ashton team will help you sell for more with the intel that they can provide and find you your dream address without the stress at GaryAshton.com. All right, what is most unbelievable about the Aaron Rodgers situation? Buck, when do you guys go to Tampa, says Carlos. I think it's like August. I fly down that Tuesday, which I think is like August 16th. Because I'm pretty sure the practices are the 17th, 18th. They're off that Friday, and then the preseason game is that Saturday. I know it's that week, Carlos, but I can't off the top of my head remember the exact dates. I know it's that week in August, somewhere, between the 16th and the 19th, is when I'm going to be down in Tampa Bay. And we'll be doing the radio show live from down there too. So we'll see if they'll give us Tom Brady. Probably not, but we'll see. Lee Hobbs says he didn't hold back at all. Alonzo said that he was keeping it 100. Johnny says he likes Rodgers more and more every day. Well, many people did not see this, so we will play this for you. But because Josh Johnson says Rodgers is a jackass. No, I love Aaron Rodgers, and he might be a jackass, but I love him because he appears he's not a jackass. He's just honest in a way that I would pay if I would give up a year's salary. All right, I would give up all the money that I make in salary. Maybe not all of the money that I make in endorsements too, because then I would have no money. And I like money. I'm a big fan of money. But I would give up a year's salary for quarterbacks to be as honest for one football season as Aaron Rodgers was today. It was incredible.
I respect the question, Spoon, and I think there's a lot of hypotheticals based on different things. I understand that I'm here because Ted Thompson took a shot on me, but also can't compare the two situations when you look at the last years of Favre's career here, based, compare them to mine, especially leading up to 2005. It was a different situation. When it comes to personnel stuff, it's not all personnel stuff that I'm talking about. I just want to be involved in conversations that affect my ability to do my job, and it's not all personnel. But I think I have a unique perspective being in a locker room and having been the starter here for 13 years and being here for 16 years. There's not many people who've been in a position of influence longer than I have in this building. So it gives me a unique perspective to shed light on how things work together. One of the most important things is chemistry and cohesion in an organization, and I think I can offer an interesting perspective. It's not where I need to have final say on anything. I never asked for that. I just want to be in a conversation. I'm interested in how they look at certain players and if they value character, if they value chemistry, if they value what they bring to the locker room. And I think, yeah, some of those guys might not have had great seasons other places, but it's different when a Jordy Nelson has got me throwing in the ball. It's different when Randall Cobb's got me throwing the ball. It's maybe a different motivation when some of these guys go elsewhere. It is different to move to a new team. And, yeah, some of those decisions would have been different, but maybe bringing back a JP for, $3 million in a one-year deal when he really desperately wanted to retire as a Packer might have been a good thing to do. Maybe letting Jordy play another season here. Who knows what would have happened. Him mentoring Tay and allowing him to take the mantle of the number one receiver and how the locker room could see that humility and be inspired by it. I think that's often not given enough credence, is how important that is. Veterans leading by example, by their attitude, how they conduct themselves, and how they show the younger guys how to be a professional. And to me, that's worth something. It might not be worth $9 million a year, which Jordy was scheduled to make that season, but he was willing to take a pay cut, way down. And I think it would have been worth it to keep guys like that, or Charles Woodson. Charles wanted to take a pay cut as well to stick around, and he obviously still played at a high level when he left. He made a Pro Bowl in Oakland, and not to mention 70% Charles Woodson is an incredible player for us. Just what he brings from a leadership standpoint, from a professionalism, toughness, being able to be a part of conversations like that.
That was like 2 minutes. That was like 2 minutes of damn near 10 minutes of Aaron Rodgers just teeing off on the Packers organization for the way, and doing it diplomatically. Like, and people are saying, does he normally talk that fast? I think that producer Reed, I don't know if producer Reed sped up that audio, or if Reed got it from a place that had sped up the audio, because that's definitely not how fast Aaron Rodgers talks in real life. But I am dying. I am dying for a year to have that kind of honesty from any NFL player. Aaron Rodgers was so great in that moment. That's actually what's going on. Not these cliches of, and it's not just because Mike Vrabel does it, but like, got to play better, got to coach better. We make decisions about the roster all the time. Me and John are constantly, and I'm not, I'm talking through like the prism of Mike Vrabel, because these are the kind of cliches that, I, as a Titans media member, hear all the time. Tannehill is intentionally uninteresting because he knows that anytime he says anything interesting as a quarterback, he's going to get aggregated, and then it's going to start a firestorm. Aaron Rodgers doesn't give a shit about any of that anymore. He said it calmly. He said it diplomatically. He said it factually, and he said it on his own terms. Aaron Rodgers today was spectacular. And I thought that there would be moves of greater consequence for Aaron with the way that he was kind of not holding out, but the way that things were trending, and then ultimately he ended up coming back in an anticlimactic way. But God almighty, I wish more players would be honest with us like that. FU money and talent. You can say what you want, says Johnny Jameson. That's exactly right. We need more guys with FU money and talent to be able to speak the way that the way that we all speak to each other, like normal human beings and not football cliche robots. It drives me batshit crazy. Anyway, that's the A to Z Sports Primetime Show for tonight. More training camp updates, more training camp content, the radio show live at training camp tomorrow, Mike Keith, Rashawn Evans, many more guests that we will be bringing to you. Check it out on 104.5 The Zone from 10 to 1. And if you don't catch the radio show live, you can do it via the podcast, The Buck Rising Show, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll keep the content, the information flowing to you because training camp is officially underway. And I am a little tired, but not all the way tired yet.
No!